Kia ora, good afternoon. I'm 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 a little bit stunned. I don't know if I'm reading this right. I don't know if I'm understanding this right. But you know my dream this morning, and I said I think that the boy's name was like Campbell or Calvin. I've been sitting here resting my tummy. I've decided to just try and give CBD oil a go for my pain. So I've just ordered some of that. So I'm going to wait to see how that goes. But just by happenstance, a video dropped on my YouTube with a man saying that he'd hurt himself doing some gardening and he bought some CBD capsules. And he said that it took the pain away. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. It's legal. If it works, I don't have to worry about anything. And I'll give it a go. So I'm laying here in pain. I was trying to have a nap, have a rest, and it's something I just keep thinking. Why was I thinking that boy's name was Campbell or Calvin? It was nagging me, and the fact that it was nagging me, it was like I always know that when something's nagging me, I'm being told to look into it. So I looked up Campbell's law. And I found this law. Lord Campbell's law seems to cover like a whole slew of different things. One of them is to do with like the defamation laws, where if anyone prints anything, and you know you can sue people and blah blah blah. There's one to do with being able to sue for fatal accidents. There's ones where Lord Campbell's law also covers it's illegal to publish anything that is lewd and obscene. So, you know, with Elon Musk and Grok, with his child stuff, and how his Grok can strip people naked and cause and create naked images of people, like they can take my photo and create naked images and things like that. Lord Campbell's law protects you from that. If the image is taken and then it's published or printed, Lord Campbell's law protects you from that. It would also cover the royal family after Princess Diana died. Remember the Mirror and the Sun and all those newspapers, all the things that they were saying about King Charles and Princess Diana and all of that. Lord Campbell's Act, they could actually sue those newspapers under Lord Campbell's Act because they were printing things that were defamatory, that were lies, that were harmful to the royal family, blah blah blah. Now remember, in my dream, I said the zombie that I thought his name was Campbell or Calvin was the king. So then I looked up Calvin's law, and I don't know if I'm understanding this right. I'll put links in the description box below, but two interesting things that I found out about Calvin's law. Firstly, Calvin's law, I'm trying to, because I'm not sure if I understand it right. Calvin's law forces the king, if the king doesn't follow Calvin's law, he's breaking God's law and nature's law. You remember I've been talking about natural law and God's law? This mentions God's law and nature's law. And the king would be breaking God's law and nature's law, which he's not allowed to do. He's legally bound under Calvin's law to not break God's law and nature's law. Nature's law is obviously to do with, forcing IDs. They can't control what you do with your land. Then they can't control elections. Anything to do with your personal freedoms and your personal rights, your body, your house, your income, your land, your property, your businesses, your family, your education, your health, all falls under nature's law. I call it natural law. The Queen calls it natural law, but apparently it's nature's law. And he's considered breaking those two laws if he doesn't abide by Calvin's law. Now, what's Calvin's law? And this is interesting because remember the dream? We were in a field. The car was in a field. Calvin's law apparently is a law that allows Scottish citizens to own land in England. And in reading it, I think Calvin's law, if I've understood it correctly, stops people who aren't English and Scottish from owning land in England and Scotland. There was this whole legal thing in America that was based on Calvin's law, and you know how BlackRock and all of that have been going around buying up all the lands and properties. I think that's against Calvin's law. I think under Calvin's law, it's only Scottish and English people under the rule of, remember it was King James I think it was King James what was it? In my dream, I think I was King James the second I was talking about in my King's Law dream. But I think my King's Law dream, it ties into what this Calvin's Law dream is. And if I've understood it correctly, you know how Keir Starmer and Tony Blair and all that have let all these billionaires come in and buy up the lands, and how they're making it illegal for people to buy homes in the UK now. That's against the law under Calvin's law. So anyone who's not a British citizen, anyone who wasn't born in Scotland or England, aren't allowed to be buying land in Scotland and England. And it was because King James's son, Calvin, I think his name is, that's why it's called Calvin's Law, they tried to stop him from owning land in England as the rightful king or something. So they brought in this law, but it then became like a whole thing where if you're not English or Scottish, because King James was the King of Scotland and England, you're not allowed to buy land. You're not allowed to buy land here. You're not allowed to, you're not allowed to buy land, which means that BlackRock and Vanguard and Bill Gates and China and all that have been going around buying big swathes of land, not only is it breaking Calvin's law, but by the king allowing it to happen, he's breaking God's law and nature's law. And then, because they said it's unchristian, because it's to do with the lands that the English kings conquered. And any land that an English king has conquered is bound by God's law, nature's law, and Calvin's law. So the king's in trouble. Because he's let Keir Starmer's government come and, let BlackRock and all of that come and buy up all this land. Like, for example, DP World, the shipping company that he gave the £1 billion to, and they're connected to the Jeffrey Epstein human trafficking thing. They bought the property in London, and they're like a Dubai company or something. Apparently they're not allowed to do that under Calvin's law. And in my King's Law dream, I was talking about, ancient laws. In the dream, I was talking about there's some ancient law. There's some forgotten ancient law that the king can use to tear everything down. But under Calvin's law, if he doesn't use it, he's in trouble for breaking God's law and nature's law. I'll put links in the description box. Have a good read of it. But if the king doesn't act, this means that the people, under the Magna Carta, the people can overthrow the king. The people will have the right to overthrow the monarchy. So all these farmers that have been forced to sell up, which will be why in my dream the road was all torn up. All these farmers that have been forced to give their land over to net zero and, being bought up by BlackRock and with Keir coming in and not allowing people to buy houses and buy land and that sort of thing, not only are they breaking Calvin's law, but by the king not acting, he's breaking God's law and nature's law, and then they can all be taken down together. It says the king would be held liable. If I've understood it correctly. And also with Grok, with AI, with any anything that is published of a person where it is obscene and lewd, they're breaking Lord Campbell's Act. So that means that X and Facebook and all of that, they can be sued by the people because Grok isn't protecting people's. They're not protecting the Obscenity Act, Lord Campbell's Act. It's called the Obscenity Act or the Obscenity Law. I'll put links in the description box below, but if the king doesn't act, if people find out about this law, all hell's going to break loose. The king will go down with Keir Starmer, and that's exactly what his mother was talking about. And my dream, remember, he was the one that was the zombie, and I was saying because he's been going along with it, he doesn't realise, he's been a sheeple. His Keir Starmer and whoever's been in government that's been allowing people like BlackRock and Palantir and DP World and all these foreign investors to come and buy English and Scottish land. It only mentioned England and Scotland because of the King James thing. They're breaking the law. So all these people that have been forced out of their homes and all the farmers that have been forced to give up their land, it's against the law. It's against Calvin's law because they're not, the people that are buying them aren't British citizens. They have to have been born here. And by the king not doing anything, and it clearly states if the king doesn't do anything, he's in trouble as well because he's bound by, and it says God's law and nature's law because it's unchristian. I'll put links in the description box, but I really, really hope King Charles is listening to this because he needs to get his people going over those laws because it could be, because what will happen is, if he can use these laws that I've been throwing at him to dissolve Parliament and get rid of Keir Starmer's government, to dissolve Parliament, which now he would be legally allowed to do, remember I said, and I've been saying, that people like BlackRock and Vanguard and that will flee because they don't want to be prosecuted when all hell breaks loose. It's because they've been illegally buying land that they're not legally allowed to own because Calvin's law doesn't let you buy land if you weren't born here, if you weren't born in England or Scotland. So even I can't buy land here. I would never be able to buy land here to build my school. I would have to put it in Thomas and Gabriel's name because they were born here. So the king needs to get his lawyers to go over this because if he doesn't do something, he could go down with Keir Starmer if people find out that they've lost their homes and their lands and all of that to people that were never had the legal right to buy their land in the first place, which means BlackRock and Vanguard and DP World and all these foreign companies like China and that have been buying up all the land, they'll be forced to give the land back. So, when I said if I was Prime Minister, I'd charge all foreign investors 500% a month tariffs, like a council tax, I wouldn't be able to do it because they wouldn't be legally allowed to be having those lands in there anyway. So anyone outside of the United Kingdom that's bought land, and it didn't say property, it said land, I think, but I'm still a little bit in shock because it mentioned God's law and nature's law. And it was in this law, it reminds the king that he's bound to those two laws. So it means that anyone who wasn't born in England or Scotland, any property that they've bought, like landlords, businesses, farms, that sort of thing, it's not legal. They'd have to put their property, if they've had children here or grandchildren here, they'd have to put everything in their name. You have to have been born in England or Scotland. I'll put the links in the description box. I'll put the one for Lord Campbell's Act in there as well, because it covers like a few things, but it does mean that people could sue Elon Musk and Grok for allowing the posting of the obscene things. But it also means that the royal family could sue all the newspapers for everything that was said. You know how they said that, you know how they published a letter from Diana to say, if anything happens to me, it was Charles, blah, blah, blah. His family could actually sue them under the Lord Campbell's Act. So now the dream makes perfect sense. That'll be why it was in a big field. And in my 2007 dream, that'll be why it was in a big open field, because it was in reference to English land. So BlackRock and Vanguard have been going around spending, buying up billions of pounds worth of land they're not legally entitled to own. And the fact that the government have been allowing them to do it, they'll be in huge trouble. And the fact that the king has allowed the government to let them to do it, the king would be in trouble as well. But the king didn't know about Calvin's law. And now I'm handing him Calvin's law. And he needs to get his people on it, because if he doesn't act and people find out about this law, the king will go down with Keir Starmer's government. He's bound by law to follow the Calvin's Act. So, he sold Highgrove to Zelensky. And Highgrove has all that land. It's royal. It's royal land. Highgrove was royal land, and he sold Zelensky that property for 20 million, and he's got his wife and kids in it, and he's not allowed to own it. It's illegal. That'll be why it was in the dream. That'll be why he was wearing the camouflage, the army stuff, because Zelensky's always wearing the army green. So he's illegally sold land to Zelensky. Zelensky's not legally allowed to own that property or that land because it was previously royal land. It was owned by the royal family. And Calvin's law is to do with the entitlements that royal bloodlines have to owning and buying and selling land. That'll be what it was. So he's illegally sold that Highgrove to Zelensky, and Zelensky's put his wife and kids in it, and they weren't born in Great Britain. They weren't born in England and Scotland. And Zelensky used money that was laundered. I knew it. So there you go. I really, really hope that King Charles is. Give me a sign, King Charles. Give me a thumbs up if I know you're listening. Oh my God, he could be in a whole heap of trouble. He could lose his crown over this. Look up Calvin's law. I'll put links in the description box, but somebody needs to get this to the king ASAP, because he sold Highgrove to Zelensky, and his wife and kids live in London, and if they own property with land, it's illegal because they weren't born here. That'll be why he was wearing the army stuff, because Zelensky likes to prance around in army green. Oh, wow. And I said the road looked like it had been torn up, and now that I come to think about it, it looked like it had been torn up with like farming equipment. Oh my God. So that's what I was saying. I felt like his name was Campbell or Calvin. And now I've just looked it up. I'll put links in the description box. But oh my God. Oh my God. This needs to get to the king ASAP. And then, because remember I keep saying that BlackRock and Vanguard and that were going to scatter to avoid prosecution, they'll have to give all the lands and properties back. Zelensky will have to give Highgrove back. The king will have to give Zelensky his money back. Wow. The Queen's onto it, man. Wow. So all the people that have been forced out of their lands, their homes, their farms, it has all been not only highly illegal, but it's so illegal that it could actually topple the monarchy for allowing it to happen. But he didn't know. That's the thing. That's what I was saying in the dream. He didn't know. He was a zombie. He was a sheeple. He was going along with it. He didn't know. Well, now he knows. And he's got to act, and he's got to act fast. All those poor farmers and that, all the pensioners have all been kicked out of their homes and lost everything for nothing. For laws that are so illegal that it could now affect the king. Keir Starmer brought Zelensky into his life and sold him that property, and he's not even legally allowed to own the land that the house is on, because the Calvin's law is to do with royal properties and all of that, and it says that when a king conquers the lands, he owns those lands. So any lands that he sells, he has to only be allowed to sell them to British, to English and Scottish-born people. Otherwise, he's breaking God's law and nature's law. These 15-minute cities and that, it's against nature's law. Digital IDs, freedom of speech, all of that, it's against nature's law. And the king's breaking those laws by, oh my God. Well, he needs to act fast. He needs to act immediately, and he needs to act now. And BlackRock and Vanguard and China and all that, they're going to have to give the land back. It's against the law. Anyone who sold them those lands, whoever did those contracts and made those deals with those the foreign billionaires and oligarchs and all that sort of thing, they're going to be held. They can be held accountable for it. They'll be null and void. Money will have to be given back. BlackRock and Vanguard and that will have to give the money back to the farmers and the people that they bought all the lands and homes off. In nature's law, you can't tell a person how to live, where to live. Right, so I'm going to go. But I'll put everything in the description box. King Charles, you need to get on this ASAP. Because if this gets out, the people will come after you, just like I said. But you didn't know. Wow. My dreams, man. Wow. Right, so I'm going to go. But wow, I've blown my own mind. Because I keep saying in that dream, I feel like his name was Campbell or Calvin, and it's been nagging at me. Why would I be saying Campbell or Calvin? And I thought, I wonder if there's a Campbell's law. I wonder if there's a Calvin's law. And then bumpty bump, 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 bump. There you go. And now we know. If the king doesn't act, all hell's going to break loose for him. Because under the Magna Carta, if he breaks God's law and nature's law, he can be dethroned. And that's exactly what I've been saying to him. That's exactly what I've been warning him. I kind of feel like we've caught this in the nick of time, though. Like, in the nick of time. Not that anyone else would have known about these laws, but I'm handing him the answers now. And then it means that all the people who lost their lands, all the farmers in that Black Rock and that, will be forced to give their land back. They won't even be able to, like, offer them money for it, offer them more money, because they weren't born here. They're all, like, American. So there you go. So I've just handed everyone the answer. In a way that even I didn't see coming until I had that dream. So I'm going to go now. I'll speak to you later. My mind is blowing. Like, I've literally just blown my own mind. I felt that my heart is pounding. I just, like, I shot up like a rocket when I saw that. I was like, oh my God. And my heart is still pounding out of my chest. Like when I've taken off on a plane, because I hate takeoffs and landings on planes, I feel like I've just taken off on a plane so bloody fast that my heart's in my throat. Wow. Right, so I'm going to go. I'll speak to you later. King Charles, if you're listening, pop it. You got to act. And you have to act now. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Bye.